Welcome, everybody, to the Rye-Town Park Commission meeting of February 7th, 2023. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Debbie, please.
Yes. Commissioner Hurd?
Yes, President. Here.
Commissioner Cohn?
Here.
Commissioner Klein?
Here.
And Joan Grosjean-Thomas is here acting for Commissioner Marino.
Here.
President Zuckerman.
Here. Adoption of minutes of November 15th, 2023. If there are no additions, corrections, may I have a motion and a second?
Just a minor question. Adoption of minutes, it says November 15, 2023. Is that?
2022. Yeah, in blue.
Okay,
Right. Debbie, that's a typo on the 3.1.
okay. Yeah, because it hasn't happened yet.
That's right. November 15th of 2022 minutes. Motion and a second?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Hearing none. Anything in Facebook?
I'm not seeing the feed yet. I'll let you know as soon as I do.
Okay. Let's move on to,
We're on the agenda, I think. He is? Okay, good, sorry.
we have a Rye-Town Park draft budget, which is before all of us. This budget is a work in progress. It is not a final budget. Debbie and Greg Essery from the City of Rye, together with myself, Mayor Cohn, and Commissioner Hurd, met last week to discuss procedures regarding the budget so that we could more align the processes of the Rye-Town Park Commission with those of the City of Rye, since the Town of Rye and the City of Rye are the entities that contribute to any possible deficit or any capital expenditures. So that discussion went very well, I think, and we're reworking the budget to reflect some of that discussion. What we want to do now is Elon Katzin will present make a presentation and a budget analysis, a revenue analysis. Elon, you're on.
Thank you so much.
You're also silent.
What's that?
Are you muted?
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right.
I do hear an echo, so it'll be a little distracting, but I'll make it work.
Can you turn it down?
Okay, can everyone see the screen?
All right. I'm
Assuming
assuming
that was a yes.
So thank you very much, commissioners, for having me back. I've been working on this revenue analysis for approximately the past month or so with the help of Debbie and Russ. So I'm here tonight to present my findings and some recommendations that we came up with in regards to revenue. So I'll just briefly start with a recap of 2022. 2022 was a bit of an odd year in terms of revenue. The three primary factors that drove what resulted in terms of the revenue was, one, there was a pullback or a further pullback of state and county COVID health restrictions. Two is that Playland was closed for the summer. And three, there was a 7% increase in most of the permit prices. The new data on permit sales after the price change, that's going to go into enhancing our elasticity analysis that resulted in what we formulated for 2023 recommendations. So going one by one, starting with permit sales, the unit sales were down about 8.5%, and the revenue were down about 9%. So I just rounded both to 9% on the slide. Just obviously, we did increase the fees for most permits by 7% last year. But the reason why we still saw a decline is because the bigger permits, when I say bigger, I mean in terms of unit sales, the non-resident family permits and the resident family permits went down much more than what the price increase could have carried into this year. Non-resident family permits actually went down 29%, and resident family permits went down 12%. Between those two going down by that much, that was about $42,000 of a decrease. And just to understand, that was 42,000 permits overall went down 48,000. The biggest reason why there was a decline is because 2021, the year before, was a high for permits. And just from things opening back up, it's likely that a lot of the loss was due to other options for summer recreation being open where it wasn't before. Moving on to beach passes, the unit sales went up 50% and the revenue went up 61%. Again, there's a little bit of a warp going on because the larger increase in the unit sales for the beach were on the more expensive beach passes. So non-resident weekend sales went up 59% in unit sales. Resident holiday actually went up 5.5 fold, literally a 550% increase for the resident holiday beach passes. Non-resident holiday went up 85%. And meanwhile, the less expensive beach passes, mostly the weekday beach passes, only went up about 25%. So because of that, with the more expensive beach passes going up at a faster rate, we have a bigger revenue bump as compared to unit sales, 61% versus 50%. And then the last one is a lot more simpler. Parking passes, the unit sales went up 18%, revenue went up about 19%. So a little bit of warping there, but overall, it's simpler to say that everything with parking went up 19% from 2021. So going into the 2023 revenue outlook, these numbers listed here are for the permits, including open water swim, the beach passes, and the parking passes, if we don't do anything in terms of the fees. We're going, based on the models that we produced, we're anticipating a continued decline in permit sales. It's not going to be as steep as 9%. It's going to be about 5-6%. Here we calculate about 6.3% of revenue for permits going down. Beach will also go down to 330,000. That is based on 2021 numbers. 2021, the park made 331,000 in beach revenue. So we're estimating that it's going to go back to the 2021 level. And same thing with parking. Parking made about $241,000 in 2021, so we're estimating it's going to go back down to there. So now going into our recommendations. For the permit recommendations, we're factoring in a 10% increase to most permit prices. This is accounting for yet another year of inflation, reaching approximately 7% over the past 12 months, the same place as we were a year ago. Um, we did build in a little bit extra because we wanted to try and balance out the need for additional revenues, given that costs are increasing. Um, we also have, as part of this recommendation, a $10 increase for resident seniors. Currently, they've been uh, paying $30 for the season, and that's been the same price point for about 5 years. And then no proposed increase to open water swim permits. Based on that slide, the previous slide where we were, if we don't increase revenue, putting these three recommendations in, we'll see an additional $52,000. So overall permit revenue will be at $495, and that includes open water swim. Beach pass recommendations. So I'll start with the recommendations on the right side, the bullet points. The recommendations are a $10 increase for the non-resident beach passes, that's holiday, weekend, and weekday, and no increase for resident beach passes. The estimated revenue increase compared to if we don't do anything is we're going to see an additional $129,000. That's an increase of 38%. And total beach revenue at that point would be $459,000. And I wanted to put this graph up. This is non-resident weekday beach pass elasticity. Currently, the non-resident weekday beach pass is $10, and the recommendation is that goes up to $20. The graph here is based on a formula that uses negative 13% elasticity. So essentially, for every 10% increase for every 10% increase to the price, the unit sales goes down about 13%. I should also point out that while it would be great to increase prices by more than $10 based on this graph, it's not advisable, given that in reality you may see those unit sales at the $25 and $30 levels actually drop even further, given inflation costs in the economy and people's willingness to spend on recreational activities, while everything else is going up. These numbers and these calculations are based on the performance of the park over the past 5 years of data. And a lot of these are based on the formulas we used before COVID, just because that's the bulk of the analysis that we had previously. But we didn't have such an inflationary environment over the past few years. So these unit sales on the higher end may actually go down even further, but only time would tell if we ever actually get to that point.
Elo, a question, please. You mentioned using a model that shows negative 13% elasticity. How did you choose that model, or that essentially negative differential? Is that based on the data from the last 5 years, or was that arbitrary or some other basis?
Sure, that's a good question. So that was based on the price point that we were back in 2019, which I forgot I forgot how much we were charging at that point. But I think Beach Pass at that point may have been done based on when you come in. Using the price point back in 2019 versus what we were showing it was going to look like in 2020, and also based on some industry research, looking at how parking rates are affected by price increases, looking at how beach unit sales are affected with price increases from other examples throughout the country. That's where I formulated that. And then plugging in what the actual performance has been over the past few years versus that 2019 price point, we came up with the 13%. So while it may not show exactly where we were in 2019 in this graph, that's because we're in a different environment than 2019, but the math still applies in terms of that 13%. Was there another question?
Not me.
All right.
Continue.
So the parking recommendation. So again, just starting with the bullet points. What we're recommending is a $5 increase for the holiday 2-hour rate, $5 increase to all of the all-day parking rates, and we're also, and this is Russ's idea, creating a 4-hour parking rate like we had back in 2019. The estimated revenue increase is about $36,000, which is a 15% increase compared to if we don't do anything. And the total parking revenue at that point would be $277,000. And this is a similar graph, the weekday, all-day parking pass. Currently, that's at $20, and the recommendation is to push to 25. And this is a negative 4.5% elasticity. And this is just a sum of the daily rates. So just walking through it quickly from left to right. So the holiday 2 hours, increase that from $10 to $15. The 4-hour rate, creating that where it'd be $10 on the weekday, $20 on the weekend, $25 for holidays. And then the all-day rate for all 3 tiers goes up by about $5. So $15 per car for weekday, $25 for weekend, and $30 for holiday. The 6 p.m. to close rates stay the same. And then as for the daily beach passes, as I mentioned before, resident rates do not increase. The non-resident rates all go up by $10. This is an additional recommendation that was also brought forward by Debbie and Russ. This is for the Pavilion and the North Beach Barbecue Grill rental areas. The recommendation here is for, on the Pavilion side, on the left side, the base 4-hour rate is going to go up $50, regardless of which day. And then the extra hour is also going to go up $12.50 for each extra hour. And the results you see on the screen on the top left. The non-resident rental rates go up $100 for the base 4 hours and $25 for every extra hour. And on the North Beach Barbecue Grill side, on the right side, the private groups minimum 4 hours is gonna double from 100 to 200, and the extra hour is also gonna double from 25 to 50. And the nonprofit side, it's gonna be a minimum 4 hours that is gonna double from 50 to 100, and the extra hour is gonna go from $12.50 to $25. And the recommendation is also to add a security deposit of $100, which I don't believe is currently being charged. And this is a summary of all of the revenue. So again, just to recap, permit revenue is $479,000. Open water swim is another $16,000. Beach pass revenue is at $459,000. Parking revenue is at $277,000. The facility rental revenue, which is the grill and the pavilion, that's going up about 10% based on also based on all of the rates going up. Concessionaire revenue, Barley Beach House. Debbie did some calculation work and spoke with the Barley Beach House, and we're confident that that number of 198,000 is pretty realistic for what we're anticipating getting from Barley Beach House. And we absolutely hope that they continue to thrive in this post-COVID environment and continue to have a lot of success. And then wrapping it up, all the revenues is 209,000. And the total revenue with all that combined is $1,694,423, based on the current surplus, which President Zuckerman mentioned is still a work in progress. That creates a surplus of $11,139. And does anybody have any questions?
Elon, what is the other revenue for 209,000?
The other revenue is made up of several things: grant income, donations, I think events. Debbie might be able to respond better to that.
It'll be the kayak concession, facility rentals, we've got that in there. And then the miscellaneous things like film permits and insurance settlements, if there are those. We are expecting from FEMA a direct administrative cost reimbursement from Superstorm Sandy of $49,000. We're expecting basically the same thing from Tropical Storm Ida for 30,000 about. So all of that is in revenue.
And those monies we've already expended, so it becomes in past years.
Yeah, that's
For the direct
reimbursement.
administrative costs, correct.
Right.
Yes.
And witness the Sandy delay in FEMA money coming in, but we're assuming that we're going to get IDA money on a prompter basis than our Sandy experience.
We were notified that the file was closed, and we have just received in the last week, 2 weeks, a check from FEMA for $300,000 for Superstorm Sandy. I have not yet had a chance to tie that out with what we think is owed. I'm not sure if the direct administrative costs is in that sum or if it's, I'm expecting an additional check. I have to check.
Understood and appreciated. My concern is really focused on including an assumption with respect to receipt of IDA money in our budget this year. That is, I know from Rye's experience that FEMA is colossally slow in paying. And we too are just getting Sandy money now. So to include in our budget as revenue money for IDA, which is just a year ago at this point, seems as if it's a little over anticipatory.
That hasn't been my experience, Josh. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I think that they're operating much more quickly on IDA. We've already gotten, I had sent a chart to the commissioners. We've already gotten the funds obligated, and I think we have some of the money in already from IDA.
We've got almost all of the project money
Right.
from IDA already, but what's called CAT Z, which is the direct administrative costs, we don't have that yet, but they're working very quickly. I do expect it this year, in 2023.
Hope so.
One can always hope.
And Elon referred to grant income. Is there other grant money that we are taking in as?
Well, some of the FEMA reimbursement from Tropical Storm Sandy is for reimbursing us for workforce labor, so that would go into operating.
Right.
And also the COVID.
Oh, thank you very much. Right, our COVID grant submission as well would be operating revenue.
Oh, okay. I don't think that's a grant in a classical sense. That's some sort of COVID reimbursement program.
Right.
Okay.
What would do you have something else you'd rather call it?
If whatever the
Whatever the accountants say it is.
Yeah, or whatever the program name is, but I don't think, I mean, a grant is something typically you apply for and it's discretionary and maybe you get it, maybe you don't, and there's a match and.
Yeah, you're right, so,
And so on.
right, FEMA is slightly a horse of a different color.
If I may make a suggestion, you could possibly include it as a line and just call it intergovernmental revenue.
That's a good idea. I like that. As long as there's a label attached to the dollar figure, and we get it. Is that it, Elon? Yeah. Do you have more for us?
That is, I do have other scenarios. That's really just more optional in case the commission wants to look at playing with the rates. I have those numbers ready, but it's really up to the commission whether they want to go in the direction of the recommendations in front of them or they want to adjust any of the recommendations.
Well, from my understanding of previous discussions, some of the recommendations would result in a deficit budget. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
We don't want to hear about those.
So should I run through at least the positive ones?
Sure. Just quickly, please.
Sure.
Leave soon.
So we have two slides here, this one and then the next one, just other policy proposals to consider. I'll skip the negative ones and just go to the last two. If you were to increase all permits by 15% instead of 10%, you get an extra $21,700. And if you increase the permit prices 10% and the non-resident permit price is 15%, instead of everyone at 10%, that's an extra $10,000. And then in terms of the beach and parking, almost all the recommendations here are for a positive change. Increasing resident beach passes by $5. Currently, there's no increase. That's an additional $20,000. Increasing all holiday parking rates by $5 in addition to whatever increases are built in is an additional $2,500. Increasing all weekday parking rates by $5 in addition to whatever's in the recommendations is an extra $39,000. And increasing all weekend parking rates by $5 is $43,000 additional.
My feeling is that increasing those rates, we already charge really high rates, and to increase them further, I think exacerbates the situation even worse. And we're showing a small operating profit as we are. So, I mean, I feel comfortable with that. And full disclosure, I've been discussing this with Debbie and Elon over the last couple of weeks as to which way to go, because the original, we could show a large budget, but those daily rates would be astronomical. And I think, increasing the permit rates as well, I think they're already pretty high. They're already going up substantially. So I think that we should go with what that recommendation is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't too many years ago that we had a conversation about trying to make the beach free. And so I think if we're able to have a surplus budget and not increase any further, I think we should stay there. There are a lot of assumptions. I don't have the comparison in front of me, so it's hard to, but the $209,000 in additional revenue does seem like a lot. I hope that all comes in.
And the pavilion rentals, I don't know, I don't know what that is compared to past years. Was it 277 you had for that?
Yeah.
Pavilion rentals, they were, oh, you mean the total,
Yeah, what did we make last year?
Facility rentals last year was about 48,000.
Oh, okay, sorry, it's 55. I was looking at parking revenue. Okay. So 48 up to 55, and that's a result of the increased fees.
That's right.
And we regularly have sort of consistently full rentals in the pavilions.
Yeah, we were expecting a return to pre-COVID levels last summer, and that didn't materialize. So I think we have to assume we're gonna have the same number of rentals this year, and hopefully we'll be surprised positively.
Don't forget, all of these numbers are contingent on one factor,
Weather.
the weather. You know, if we have a Memorial Day, July 4th, and Labor Day of beautiful weather, we're gonna make a lot of money. If we have lousy weather, we're gonna lose money. This doesn't matter what we do with the rates or anything. If those weekends don't pan out, it's not gonna work.
I really like the idea of the 4-hour rate.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see how that works out. Whether people just buy their 4 hours and skip the all day. Russ?
Well, you know, what I want to add to that is
Introduce yourself for the public.
that the reason, Russ Gold, Park Director, Right Town Park. You're going to make it so that I don't come anymore. So the reason I added to because the idea was, the initial idea was to raise the 2-hour rate, which in most of our opinions was that was going to have a really negative impact. And it was also going to really detrimentally affect the restaurant. For so many people came in and parked for 2 hours because they go to the restaurant and then they leave, okay? And if they didn't leave, well, guess what? They got a ticket. And we were much better with overtime enforcement last year. So to avoid having to raise the 2-hour rate, I thought about creating a 4-hour rate, which it actually turns out to be the same as the full day rate from 22. And then we increased the full day rate to $5 over last year's. So we created this middle opportunity, this 4-hour opportunity for people, and I think it'll really pay off. And because then you'll have the people that'll come. The idea is that you'll have people to come to the beach and don't want to pay all day, but they'll pay 4 hours, which, as I said, is the same as last year's rate, right? And then we have the potential to get a churn, okay, where the cars turn over, and we get another set of cars for 4 hours.
Right.
So that was the idea behind that. One thing, Mr. President, about the anticipated income from rentals, how it's affected. All our revenues are so heavily affected by weather. Yes, that's true, with the exception of the rentals, facilities rentals, because people have put down their deposit, they've reserved their dates. If it rains a little bit, they're still coming, and the party is still there. Okay, so that one area, that one revenue stream is probably less affected by weather than any other revenue stream.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Russ. We've just been dealing with the revenue side because we know when we get into the expense side, we're dealing with an inflationary economy. We're dealing with increased labor costs, which we can't really control that much. We have to have the labor. And for example, we know that Playland is hiring lifeguards at $18 an hour, and we have to at least match that. I think what were we at, $16.50?
Last year our starting salary was $16.50, which proved to be very effective for us. We did not have a problem hiring lifeguards.
We weren't also competing with Playland.
We didn't know that when we were hiring.
So
Yeah, I think it's important that we match Playland's starting salary.
So anyway, I'm just saying that when we have a more fulsome budget discussion, we'll go through all of those things. What I'd like to do, unless there's an objection, I'd like to vote on the 3 resolutions for implementation of the daily beach, the season permit fees, and the rental fees. Is that okay with everybody?
I don't have the resolutions, I don't think, in here. Am I missing them?
Page
163,
165.
164, 165.
There they are. So starting with the 5.2,
5.2, 5.3, and 5.
Before we go
Sure.
there, if I may, just a question for Joan, and perhaps this is unfair because you're here stepping in for Luis, but in prior years, our principal point of fee sensitivity on the commission, particularly with respect to daily fees, has been to make sure that we're keeping the beach accessible to Portchester residents who, at least a substantial portion of which, like to come on a daily basis and not on a permit basis. And so I'd ask you if you feel ready to sign off on these, on these fees.
Right, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking this to myself, having not had an opportunity to have a discussion with anyone, certainly on the Portchester side, Mayor Marino. So yeah, I don't know that I feel comfortable voting on this tonight.
The beach fees for residents has not changed, only non-residents.
yeah.
In keeping with Mayor Cohn's statement, yes, we are very sensitive to the residents of Portchester, and I think many of them buy the daily beach rates, and those have not been changed.
The senior rate is going up, correct?
$10.
For the
$10.
For the year,
That's an annual.
that's an annual.
That's the correct.
Yeah.
That's, and it's been $30 for everything for well in
several
excess
years.
of 5 years.
Mhm. But I imagine it still might be a shock to the system. Even understanding it's been that way for 5 years, but then to have it all of a sudden go up $10 might be a shock to the system nonetheless.
We also have the, what do they call it, universal or?
Lifetime, there are, how did we decide, just under 700 people have lifetime senior permits that they were granted in 2010. They pay nothing. They just have to show up and get their permit again.
And that 700 are from Portchester? Or
They're all
oh,
residents.
from all over?
They're, no,
Right,
not
town
all over, they're
residents.
just
Yeah.
town
I would
residents.
suggest
Yeah.
that most of them are Portchester,
Mhm.
although obviously they could be from Rybrook and Rye City as well.
Right, right, right. I mean, certainly, you know, I'm sure this was done, Alone does a great job, and this was done with great care, with input from Debbie, and, but still, I would like to be able to have a conversation to let folks know that this is what's on the docket. So I don't know how that impacts if I abstain or, if that gets put off.
Well, let's move, that's the daily beach rates, it's not essential we vote on them tonight.
Mhm.
Because we can always, we don't charge those until, when? Memorial Day weekend, so we have time on that. However, the season permit fees and the facilities
Rental
fees.
Mhm.
Let's jump down to the rental fees. I don't think there should be an objection to that one. 5.4. Because that doesn't affect
Yeah, that's
the
not a
average
daily.
resident.
Mhm.
Any comment on that? May we vote on that one?
This is the
Okay.
increase in the pavilion rentals. Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
Okay, a motion and a second, please.
I moved.
Second.
Debbie, call the roll, please.
Yes. What are we voting on?
Facility rentals.
Facility
yes.
rentals. Got it. Commissioner Hurd,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Grajean Thomas.
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. Okay, the season permit fees.
There's one thing I want to mention, and Russ just reminded me, our permit portal opened in January at last year's rates. So if you don't vote today, we will be selling permits at last year's rates until the commission decides to increase it. Our revenue numbers have been calculated based on a full season, so those will be a little different. But
So the rates on the permits have in fact increased. For example, resident rates going from 161 to 177. And obviously, all of the rates were increased based on a loan's analysis. So the question is whether you want to vote on that at the present time or hold off until March, understanding that the permits that we're selling now will be at last year's rates until the rates are increased. And that may have an effect. There may be only 20 permits sold between now and the next meeting, which won't have much of an effect. But if there are 400,
Right.
if there are, well, if there are 400 sold, then it will have an effect.
one
So-
other thing to keep in mind, commissioners, is last year, the permit rates for residents were not raised. Only non-resident permit rates were raised.
No, I think they did get raised last year for residents.
Yeah, they were, except
was
not the seniors, not the resident senior, that
Right,
stayed
not the
flat.
seniors.
Right.
Yeah.
And what did it go up last year?
Why?
No, what? How
Oh.
much? We're at we're at 241 for a family last year, resident family. 225. So now we're going up to 265. So that's $40 over 2 years.
It was a 7% increase, almost across the board.
I don't like these numbers, Alon. I wish you could make it rounder. A lot more zeros in there so I can compute a little bit more easily.
Well, we have a decision to make. Obviously, the $11,000 surplus is based on these numbers. So if these numbers are going to be changed to produce less revenue, then that $11,000 surplus will be either decreased or eliminated. And we have to keep that into account.
I would stick with Elon's suggestions on permit fees myself. I think people understand the inflationary position that we're in and the need to meet our costs.
Yeah, I would agree that it's, you never like raising fees, but I think it's necessary given the expenses, and I still think that this is, especially with these permits, I mean, for an annual pass, that's very reasonable. And I think you may even get, with the other fees potentially going up, the parking, you may end up getting more people moving over to permits, anyway, so.
I mean, but our goal has always been to incentivize people buying permits, right?
Right.
And I'm just curious, I have no idea, you've done the analysis, but if we think that the permit sales will We actually think they're gonna drop this year.
We anticipate that the unit sales will drop a little bit. They've been coming down steadily since that high water mark of COVID summer.
Yeah.
Right. I think the incentive is still there. I think if, and I guess, you know, you would know better what kind of the break-even point is, how many times and how many people. So for a family of 4, you know, how many times going on daily
Right.
fees, where's that break-even point, where it makes more sense to buy the permit? And given the numbers I'm seeing here, it's probably not that much. I think the incentive still probably exists, would be my guess. You know, if you're only gonna go once or twice, you're not gonna buy a permit. If you're gonna go 4 or 5 times in a summer, it makes a lot more sense to buy the permit.
Well, particularly if you've got kids. Well,
Yeah.
kids are always free anyway, so.
If you don't buy a permit, if you don't buy a permit, you're rolling the dice. What if we have another great weather summer? Or all of a sudden you say, oh, the kids wanna go to the beach, or the family wants to go to the beach, every week, at least
Right.
once a week. So then once you've decided not to buy a permit, then you're stuck with the daily rates. Now, then maybe they go somewhere else, maybe they won't, again, it's very difficult to tell. And this is where the weather comes into play. So it's nice if we get the permit money, because then we kinda get it up front.
Yeah, I think that's one of the arguments to get the permits out there, is to get the money in the bank. Once the summer starts, it pays for us to actually stop selling permits. Don't we stop selling permits at some point?
Yeah, mid-July.
July. So
Well, to be perfectly honest, the permit office closes. If somebody wants to buy a permit, I'm gonna sell it to them. It could be August.
yeah, but the fact of the matter is,
Back of you, Cola.
the fact is that we would like people to buy the permits. We'd like to buy them early. And right now, the permit, Russ, you said that the portal opened in January?
Actually just opened a few days ago.
Have we sold any permits?
Let me check right now. I don't know the answer.
Well, I would say I would be comfortable
Yeah.
voting on the permit.
All right.
Oh.
Russ is we'll just wait for Russ to see if we have any permits sold.
We probably certainly will have some sold though by next meeting. Everybody's starting to think about summer plans.
All right. Well, while Russ could pipe in, may I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Debbie, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Hurd,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Grosjean-Thomas,
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes.
And we'll keep the daily
For next
fee
time.
decision.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, John. Item 5.5, authorizing the commission to engage the Pond Lake Connection for the 2023 season. We've discussed this previously. Debbie, take 2 minutes just to explain what this is about.
Yes, the Pond Lake Connection is the vendor that helps us with the equipment in the pond, that aerates the pond, that deals with the algae in the pond. They do the full administration for our annual DEC permit. And they have learned the foibles of our particular estuary. And we're recommending a renewal this year of their contract. And my screen went black right now, so I don't recall, but I think it's about a 7.5% increase,
We had
sort of
discussed-
consistent
yes.
with inflation. And as far as I'm concerned, they know particular.
been doing this for a long time. Didn't Bill Lawyer introduce us to them
You know, the
first?
Friends of Rydtown Park engaged them right after the pond was renovated,
Okay,
and they've been with us ever since.
okay. Any questions? Motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Deb.
Commissioner Hurd,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Grosjean Thomas.
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. The next one, I have been so looking forward to doing this. This is a resolution to authorize the commission to purchase the ADA compliant beach mats and other accessories, as it says, pursuant to the quote annexed to the bid. This is as a result of the grant that we applied for, well over a year ago. I think it's almost 2 years now, for beach mats, to add to the accessibility of the beach from the newly installed accessible ramps down to the beach. And we received a grant, a 50% grant totaling $17,735 from Westchester County through the CDBG program. And we finally, actually, I think it took longer for us to get the contract signed by the county than it did to get awarded the grant. But we have a signed contract, we're ready to go, and we're purchasing this for $33,359.31. And this includes, if you look at the end of the quote, water wheels, which is a kind of a floating beach chair, so that persons who are disabled can go to the beach and can actually go into the water. And this improves our accessibility
So-
tremendously.
The $33,000 will be discounted to us by the 17,000. We pay the 33, but we'll be reimbursed.
That is correct.
Can perhaps you, Debbie, explain to us, this is broken down into a lot of pieces, and do the pieces piece together to form to form two strips?
I'm gonna toss this over to Vic, who priced out the beach mats. All I know is that they roll up.
We have the picture up there, good.
Hi, Vic Federico, Director of Grounds and Facilities. Yes, Josh, they do connect. They're secured into the ground. They are easily removable, so you can actually place them any way you want. But this is the way we intend to use them.
Okay, and so they can be broken up into pieces for
Yes.
storage?
Yep.
Is that the way it works?
Yeah, and when they were ordered, if you look at there are two sections up on the board. Can the public see this, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, there are two sections on the board. One is from the main ramp, and that goes directly down to the water into a T, so you can go left or right. The other one is from the south ramp, that goes to the water and make a left turn, and that little piece on the top there is to go from the ramp to the tunnel bath. When we get that constructed, so that somebody, for example, who's at the beach can go up the ramp, make a right turn and go to the tunnel bath, and somebody who's entering can go directly into the tunnel bath. So this was well thought out by our excellent staff, and the lead time, Vic, what's the lead time on this?
I think it's 4 weeks.
4 weeks, okay.
Just a question about the water wheels. Is that something that needs supervision or an attendant?
We were just discussing that today. We're not 100% sure exactly how much, we're checking with other places who have these and to find out exactly what what we need to, what needs to be done with this. Is it a self-sufficient thing? According to Russ, I think you were the one who said, most of the places who have this, most people who come and use it already have attendants. Was it you who said that?
No, I did not say that.
Somebody said that.
It was, no, it sort of, what you're saying is out of context, but,
Thank you.
no, we're really concerned.
We can hear you, come on up.
We have those same concerns. Josh.
Understood? Okay.
Absolutely, you know, and I don't, my staff, our staff is not trained, I don't know what our obligations will be, you know, whether it's, you know, whether, as Jeff maybe suggested, that maybe they just have to sign a waiver and it's your responsibility to use it safely, but, before we deploy these things, we're definitely gonna do, we have to do a lot, you know, deeper dive.
Does it make sense to pull them out of this purchase order and just not get them right now?
It might,
It's $5,000 almost, 4,600. I was thinking it was like, oh, that's free when you said it, but now I'm looking at this.
yeah, it's free with,
Well, it would
it's
save
free
us-
with purchase.
Yeah, it would save us 2,500.
I'd like to
Why?
offer another perspective on that, and that is to have a sand-worthy wheelchair at the beach available for an emergency would be a very useful thing, or could be.
Is it a wheelchair or is this
Yes.
a floating beach and pool
No.
chair?
No, it's a,
Yeah,
well,
I've
it's
seen
not,
them before. They're
Yes,
they're
yes.
these really large wheels.
Yeah.
That can get over the sand, so it does make it so that someone could get access across the sand.
I
as well.
honestly am thinking of it that way. I never thought of it as, oh, a flotation toy. I don't see it that way at all. I see this as a beach where, because wheelchairs get stuck in the sand. They're not designed for sand.
Right.
These are designed for sand.
But I mean,
Aren't the mats
Mats, yeah.
getting the user down to the water?
And then when they leave the mats,
Are they in the water at that point, the mats? Do they
well,
actually
they leave the,
need-
well, the mat goes all the way down the beach. So you go down the beach and then you want to find a place to sit. So they'll leave the mat, if they have a beach-worthy wheelchair, to get them there.
See, otherwise they would be stuck at the end of the mat. They wouldn't be able to travel anyplace
So-
else on the beach.
So these water wheels would essentially be used by people either to go farther into the water or to go right or left and to a position on the beach, and then someone would have to bring the chair back for others to use.
My understanding about these chairs was that if a person, a disabled person, wanted to actually get into the water, they would transfer from their chair to the beach chair. Beach chair would get rolled into the water, and then they would leave the chair, and then they're floating. Then they'd have to be recovered. And again, I'm, completely in agreement with you. This, whether or not we buy them or not, but before we would deploy them, there's a lot of questions that yet have to be answered.
No, I agree with you.
All right?
do we start with one and see how it goes?
Well, certainly we want to order the mats. That's the only thing that has to be assembled and put in. We could talk to the company and see if, we could order the beach chair at a later date.
Is the 17,000 a 50% match or is it a $17,000 grant?
It's allegedly a 50% match because that's the estimate we sent in. Debbie had a conversation with planning today, relate that about in case
It's been in a previous conversation. It wasn't today, but the.
we had a conversation today.
Right, the planning department has taken into account the fact that the grant awards were several years and a considerable amount of inflation ago,
Yeah.
and they're making good on the 50-50 match.
Got it.
course, if we reduce what we're buying by the cost of a wheelchair or two, then we'll be closer to that original number.
That was my question. Yeah, oh, wow. Not quite what I was imagining. I do remember pushing the stroller through the sand and just wanting to go nuts.
Well, you know,
Sweating,
I've
screaming.
most of the time when I go to the beach,
Yeah.
just an aside, I often see, you know, we think of accessibility as people in wheelchairs or
Yeah.
walkers. More often, the person who needs accessibility is a young family pushing a carriage or a stroller. And I've seen families, especially when you have 2 or 3 children, where the mother would be hauling a wagon filled with all the toys
Yeah.
and dragging it through
Yeah,
the
well, the
sand.
mats will be a huge help.
So I think this is the you know, the biggest effect will be on young families with children who have carriages and strollers and wagons and
Yeah.
things like that.
Okay, I have to leave in 4 minutes
All right.
to talk about dogs.
Okay, can I have a motion and a second on this, please?
What do we do with the water wheels?
Well, we're approving the whole contract, so we can make that determination after Russ does his investigation.
That works for me.
Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second,
Call the roll, please, Deb.
Commissioner Hurd,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Grosjean Thomas,
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. Emily has to leave, so I'm going to ask that we bring the discussion of the off-leash dog policy up before the Barley Beach House. I'm sorry, Chris.
Sorry.
Okay?
Drink the juice though, I'm really happy about it.
Which one?
The aquatic sports
Oh, right,
licensing, the sports.
Yeah, that-
licensing.
Yeah, you want to stay, or you want to do that?
Can we pass that with 4?
We can do it before,
We
fifth
can do
time.
it with 4? Okay.
I'm happy to
You-
pass that one real quickly.
All right. This is the sports licensing agreement for the, say canoes, they're
Kayaks.
kayaks.
They did great last year, right? And they have done well in the past couple of years.
They did great, and their operating results were roughly equal to the year before. So I think they've hit a stable place. This is the last year of a renewal. Next year, we're gonna have to go out to bid again.
Do the rates stay the same because it's a renewal?
His rates are actually going up a little bit. They're detailed in the resolution. He's expanding his session from an hour to an hour and a half, and the rates are going up a little bit accordingly. But we're on a sliding scale. It's not gonna cost us any more. This year, I believe we were at the 6% level. Could be 10% level, 10%. So the more he makes, the larger percentage Rydtown Park makes in a licensing fee.
I think 1.5 hours, I mean, that makes sense. 1 hour can go by pretty quickly when you get on the water. We've used them, and I think it's a great thing to have at the beach, so I support it. I'd be willing to make a motion.
Okay. Motion, second. Call the roll, Debbie, please.
Commissioner Hurd,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Grosjean Thomas,
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. All right. Off-leash dog policy. Emily, this is your baby.
Oh, boy. No, just, it's been met with such joy from dog owners and dogs. And, you know, we talked about February 28th because the seasonal staff comes back, on March 1st. And, you know, the interference with maintenance, was the reason we talked about February 28th. just, you know, have had incredible support from the dog park off-leash people, to see this continue if possible for, until the end of March. I mean, originally my request was that we do this in relation to daylight savings. Because having the extra time in the dark mornings is super helpful. But it's also parents dropping their kids off at elementary school, which is an 8:40 drop off, getting to the park. Anyway, I think it's been a really positive experience. I don't think there have been any issues. It would require Russ kind of maneuvering staff around the dog area until 9:30 for an additional month. But that's the request.
Let me comment on that. I don't think, look, we're talking about 1 month, so it's not that big a deal. I would be opposed to extend it another month. I don't want this to be, you know,
Next
getting the
month.
snoot under the tent and then burrowing in. It's 1 month, but I think it's unreasonable to request the staff to change its policy in any way to accommodate the fact that dogs are gonna be in there. The dogs will have to accommodate the staff rather than the other way around. You know, I think that we really need to look at this policy. I understand that those patrons who like to run their dogs find it a very good and positive experience. I worry about just the single concept of dogs off leash. I worry about that concept in a park setting. Can you tell me, I know that Crawford Park does not allow any dogs off leash at any time. Are there any other parks in the city of Rye that allow dogs off leash? Disbro Park, do they have dog hours there?
No.
I don't think dogs are allowed at all in Disbro.
I don't know.
Actually, I was thinking of Ryrec, where I know that you can't walk a dog even on a leash.
Yeah, so, I mean, this policy is an exception to the policy of both the town of Rye and the city of Rye.
Well, I don't know about Disbro, so.
Emily just mentioned that they don't. I think that the city probably has a leash law that would cover this question. Excuse me. Jamie?
Jamie Jensen, Rye Down Park. Emily, I agree with you. The Rye residents absolutely adore the park. They love, it's part of what makes people love the park so much, and COVID made that really clear. When Meg Rodriguez and I were asked by the last commission before Gary was president to head up the conversation about creating the new rules, there was lots of conversation about people needing to get permits, off-leash permits from the city. There was a real conversation, it was a thoughtful conversation about how we manage expectations and how we ask the police to intervene if we need to, et cetera, et cetera. In the last week or so, there's been a lot, which you know, and so it's not worth bringing up. There's been a lot of upset because of the dog attack that happened in our Ryrec Park field, the child that ended up in the hospital. What I worry most about is that already, and they're my friends, and so everyone's hearing this right now that loves dog leash, are hearing me say this, and they're like, Jamie, how could you have said that? But there are people that open their car door and they let their dog out right from there, and they don't actually even respect the unleash area the second they get out of the park. So what I worry about, and what I hope you will do with all of the younger families, is sort of say, okay, we're taking an extra month, but if we start to push and push and push and disregard the expectations, then they will lose it altogether, because there's this quiet group of people across town that will just shut it down. And that's my biggest worry. So I don't have a problem with the month. I said this to you last time. I worry about this kind of creep. People are happy, they're enjoying each other, they open their door, the dogs run out, the ponds are always in the pond. There's a moment at which people who love the gardens will not be happy, and so we have to figure out how to manage those expectations. And I feel like the bad guy always bringing this up because I love the dogs, you know I do.
Yeah.
So I just want that to be heard publicly, who's ever listening, who loves the off-leash rule, because it really is a privilege for us to lose.
Jamie, I don't want you to be the only person feeling like a bad guy. I've had staff harassed by off-leash dogs in the parking lot. At the end of last season, we had a problem with 3 maintenance people all being accosted by an off-leash dog. What I request is that the message go out to the dog friends to practice more discipline about keeping their dogs on leash until they are in the off-leash area, and to respect the hours so that it's not okay to have their dogs off leash at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not okay to have dogs off leash on a promenade when the dog can accost a small child. We saw that, there was a posting in the Mom's Facebook just this past week.
Yeah.
So there was a bright framework around dogs off leash, and if the message could go out to the dog friends to remember what those guidelines are, I think it will make everything easier to work with.
So I guess, am I being asked to be a messenger?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if I'm willing to take that on. I think we've got a comment from the public.
Yes.
I can ask you to be a messenger.
Member of the public.
Yes, I'd be happy to be a messenger.
State your name,
My name's
please.
John Elson. I'm a resident of Rye, and I've been bringing my dog to the park for the last 2.5 years, along with everyone else in the world. We bought a dog during COVID. There are many, many dogs in the community. There always have been, but there are a lot more now. So a lot of people, are going to the dog park with their dogs, and I guess the park,
Excuse me,
well,
what you said was interesting, because I saw an email using that term. It is not a dog park.
Right. No, I stand corrected. It is a park that between 6 and 9 and 9:30 right now is used heavily by dog owners and very much loved and appreciated. And Emily put it very well. I mean, there are nuances to this that I wasn't prepared to sort of get into or address, but I just wanted to speak on behalf of many, many people in the park who I talk to in the mornings, and I've been going most every morning for the last 2.5 years, who have found this extended half hour. It's been very popular and very much appreciated, and been a very positive experience, as Emily said. So I wanted to convey that and just share that with you. Primarily for the reason that I believe Emily first brought this to the commission, which is that a lot of parents with young children, drop their kids at school and then can still get to the park, which is very important for the dogs, and there are a lot of them, to be able to get real exercise, socialize, and for the dog owners as well, because especially during COVID, but even still, it's been a very lovely experience to be able to socialize in such a beautiful setting, and I think brings it, for me personally, and I think for a lot of people, a whole new appreciation of the park. I've been in Rye 22 years. I raised my kids in Rye. They all learned how to walk in the Rye Town Park. But, I appreciate the park in a very new and different way now. Spending every morning there, you really get to, experience it. So I think a lot of people feel the same way. So, on behalf of the many, many people who I talk to in the park, this extra half hour has been a wonderful thing. And, how that correlates with maintenance and maintenance workers. From my experience the last 2.5 years, maintenance workers have been working in the park while we've been in the park, roughly 8 to 9. I don't know exactly what their hours are, but we come in, they're like lawnmowers, all over the place. The dogs all avoid it. They even did a massive drainage project, I believe, of some sort in the park last summer, and the dogs all avoided that. I wasn't aware of any kind of, if any dog harasses anyone, it's the responsibility of that dog and the dog owner, and that nobody in the park wants that, for sure.
But let me ask you this. You've heard some of the statements. You're a dog owner, dog lover, dog walker. How would you address your fellow walkers who break the rules? Now, it's my understanding, and we've had this discussion before, the City of Rye Police Department is not enforcing this ordinance. And they obviously feel, you can talk to the Public Safety Commissioner, but they obviously feel that there are more important things for them to be engaged in than enforcing the ordinance, or indeed checking on the licenses. We have no idea if any, let alone all of the people have proper licenses from the City of Rye. Okay,
I know.
so anybody can come in. In fact, we don't even know if the people walking the dogs are from the City of Rye, because there's no way of telling. They could be coming in from Harrison, Mamaroneck, Yonkers, or wherever they want to be. They happen to be driving by the park and they say, I'm going to let my dog run. We don't have any enforcement. And that's a problem that I see from a management perspective.
Right.
And I'm sure Jeff, as our attorney, Jeff, you can comment on the liability if anything happens in the park.
Maybe you don't want to do that.
Good evening.
I know it opens it up.
Jeff Binder, counsel to the commission, town attorney for the town of Rye, owner of a golden doodle that's about 70 pounds.
Did you
I
order?
actually lose sleep about this issue for the park, because with the lack of enforcement and the original city ordinance and the original negotiations that, based on my research back in 2015, part of the bargain between the city and the commission was that there'd be enforcement of these licensure laws. There was a licensing scheme. There was, I think, even I read one account where there was supposed to be a special enforcement officer dedicated to this. In any event, hearing some of the episodes that have happened recently, I lose sleep about the potential liability for the municipality. Now, if a municipality is not enforcing its own ordinances, that could give rise to liability. If you do some research about dog bite laws and litigation and strategies for litigating, that comes up. Normally, if the municipality is doing its enforcement in good faith and in a reasonable way, it's the dog owner's responsibility. Liability is pushed to the dog owner. And then your homeowner's policy covers it, what have you. But as everyone here knows, the commission gets sued, the city gets sued, the town gets sued when there are personal injuries at the park. And this particular issue is of a heightened concern to me, knowing that there's some incidents.
So, okay, I have to pick up a 10-year-old in 1 minute. I would like to say the following. I'm happy to work on this issue, which is a bigger issue than whether or not we extend the dog off-leash hours until 9:30 this month. And it's something that addresses the dog permit, the education of dog licensed off-leash people, et cetera. There's a lot there. And I don't think that we're addressing any of these issues if we keep it till 9:30 till the end of March or not. So my request is that we maybe deal with that one issue right now, and then I will commit to working with the subcommittee to see how we can help Jeff sleep at night and address, education and, licensing, et cetera.
No, I agree. I think that raising this issue, even though you've raised it in the limited sense of extending it for one more month, leads us to a more in-depth
Fulsome
discussion
conversation.
going forward.
I will be murdered by the off-leash dog park people if the dog park is taken away by virtue of having raised
Oh,
this.
if the dog park,
Yeah.
if the dog park,
Cozy, you want to go to the dog park? I mean, sorry.
Emily, I know you have to go. Would you like to make a motion?
I'd love to
To
make a
extend-
motion to extend it just until the end of March.
Okay, second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will be in touch about how we can make this better.
Okay.
Okay. I can't wait to drink my juices. I'm sorry. I didn't see the freezer.
All right. Unless I've skipped something else inadvertently, presentation from the Barley Beach House.
Sorry, I got your pictures. You can start.
My name's Chris with the Barley Beach House. I'm one of the owners and operators at the Barley Beach House, and I'm here today just, I guess, for my yearly review to go through some new menu changes and some events for this upcoming year to get approvals. In addition, to talk about the North Gate that's been unoperational for the past several years that will be opening up this season. Last year was a good year for us. We had a nice, long, hot summer, so the weather held out for us. So everything we did last year, we kind of knocked it out of the park. So it was a good year for us to get the ball rolling and try some new things and get a true sense of how the community would react to the stuff that we were doing, the events that we were putting together. So with that being said, a lot of the stuff that's on this list is stuff that events that we did last year with a couple new ones. So I'm just going to start at the top with last year we did Easter brunch in the store, and we sold out about 3 weeks early. And the store on the inside is, for those people that haven't been there, it's very limited with seating. There's only about 60 seats on the inside. So we sold out. We did 3 seatings. We sold out about 3 weeks early. So we're playing with the idea, or I'd like to try a new idea this year called Pancakes in the Park with the Easter Bunny, where we could actually utilize the park and do like a breakfast for the kids and everything in the park. We did a Easter hunt last year. We did, I think we did like 2,000 Easter eggs for an Easter hunt last year during the Easter brunch. So I'd like to do that, but with the Pancakes in the Park this year, and try to do it a little bit on a larger scale, in addition to having a normal Easter brunch the Saturday before Easter. So that would be the start of it. Story Boom is something new that we're gonna try out this year. I linked up with Ivy and Danielle. They run Story Boom. Story Boom is basically, it's a bunch of storytellers that tells true stories at a mic, true stories of their life, and it's based upon a theme. So our theme for the first Story Boom would be the chicken and the egg. They don't use notes. Some of the stories that people tell are very funny. Some are very heartfelt, and it could be a little bit of both. People are very highly entertained with these. They come from all over to kind of tell their stories and let everybody know their experiences that they've had in life. So I feel like it's a good group of people to kind of link up together and bring them to the venue and just kind of see how the event goes. The events run about an hour and a half to 2 hours each. We're talking about trying to do this event on our beach deck. They've never been at a venue where they could book more than 100 people at, or 150, and they've sold out the last couple times. So talking with them, if we could do it on the beach deck, it opens up a wider area where we could do seating and stuff. So we're really giving them the opportunity to see how many people that they could draw for one of these events. As you mentioned before, the only worry that we're having is weather, because the inside of the store, we can't handle it. But fortunately, we do have our tents, so with the approval to do something like this, I would like to just pull a tent permit just in case it does rain, and maybe do it in the park or under the pavilion if there's a large group of people and we can't fit them in the store. So that's Story Boom. Arts in the Park is another new event that we're looking to do this year. I'm hooking up with Arts of Westchester and a couple local vendors, art vendors that I've used for the Westchester Wine Walk. I'm looking to try to do a 2-day event, Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be from 10 to 5, and it's going to be free. I'd like it to be free for the public, and we're going to try to, with your approval on this, Arts of Westchester is going to blast it out tomorrow to 2,500 local artists to see if they'd be willing to come to the park and set up, and everything that they're going to bring would be original pieces, handcrafted art. Some of it will be for sale, some of it will just be show. I think it'll be good just to get people into the park early in the season. It'll be good for the restaurant to have the flow of people coming through.
Is this, you mentioned free, so
Free
you
to the
would
public.
like the commission to suspend parking fees for that day? Those
I
2
don't,
days?
no, I don't think that's necessary. If you would like to, I'd love to.
Rather not.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's necessary. It's gonna be free to the public. If, I'll work with Russ and, to get vendors in and out and park there, but I'd like it to be just a free event. We're actually gonna charge the art vendors to be there, so we'll have the income from that and hopefully, and the additional revenue of people coming in to see what's going on. And I think it'll be great just for the everyday people that are in the park walking through. It'll be just something new and exciting. Next event would be Suds on the Sound. We did that. That's our craft beer festival. We did it last year. It went off without a hitch. It was a really good time. So hopefully we triple those numbers this year, right, Russ? So we'd like to repeat that again this year. We did last year. I think we ended up with like 55 different breweries, over 120 different tastings. And we didn't have vendors last year, so I'm going to add vendors to it again this year. I'm going to try to get I think I actually got 60 vendors right now that want to be a part of it. So with all the approvals, I'll probably take all the vendors that we could fit in the park. The North Gate, we are calling it Juicy's Pizza Cafe or Juice Bar. We're still playing a little bit with the ideas and everything, but you guys do have a menu here. I gave it to Debbie. I'm not sure how to change this.
Yeah, the timing was perfect.
Yep. So the menu, we tried to keep it, more of a healthier menu. We do have the pizza oven in there, so we wanted to do.
Debbie, could you put it on this one? I can't see that.
I don't know how to do that. Patrick, any help there? To get this screen up on the,
What, you can't see it?
he wants it, do I have a menu? I don't know if I got, to get that, yeah, that image,
Oh, well, okay.
up on that one. Is this the menu?
There's two for this.
Some people just know how to do stuff.
It's
Right.
this one and this one. So we're gonna commit to keeping the North Gate, Juicy's Pizza Cafe open. It'll be open from 8 to 4, Monday, 7 days a week, from Memorial Day to Labor Day. We're gonna be doing fresh pressed juices to order. We'll have some packaged and ready to go, which is what I gave you guys today. Smoothies, pizzas, salad, ahi bowls, and fruit bowls, and dog treats for the dog walkers. So that's pretty much the whole menu that we're going to open up with this year. For the most part, we're going to offer up, we're going to try to sell parties over there. We're really going to try to push to do some parties there with the fireworks and everything. I'd like to get approval to maybe put 5 picnic tables out there where people can order pizza and sit down and eat. And, it'll be okay if the public is using them too. I'm sure that wouldn't be an issue. So that would be the North Gate. That'll be opening Memorial Day weekend. We're probably going to put together a little ribbon cutting for it maybe the following week after, when it's not so crazy busy. The FDNY 343 charity ride, we did it last year. I think we raised just under $8,000 for the charity. It was for wounded vets that needed help purchasing wheelchairs. I'd like to do that event again, but I found out today that they might not be riding anymore, so I will probably be looking to find another charity. So I'm going to hold the date for now until further notice, but if anybody does have another charity that they might like to bring to us, we'd like to, consider it and put it together. Summer kickoff party was, we did it last year. It was another free party for the public. We just had a bunch of entertainment. We had some Hawaiian dancers that did luau style dance on the beach and some fire twirlers. We did 2 shows. We called it our sponsorship kickoff party, where we had all our sponsors there giving away some free swag to anybody who came to the restaurant or that was on the beach. So we'll like to do that again. The July 4th firework buffet dinner, after July 4th, July 4th last year we did a buffet on the beach. On the beach deck, we'd like to do that again, along with our sunset beach dinners, which was every Friday after we did a buffet on the beach, where the tickets were purchased ahead of time, so we were able to know who was coming to it and get them access to the beach, and basically just maintain it. Started out very slow, but towards the end of it, we started picking up steam with it, so we're really hoping that kind of continues for us this year. Another new event I'd like to do is a sunset sip and paint party on the beach deck. And I know all the beach deck stuff is up in the air right now, so I didn't really want to get too far into the beach deck stuff. But where we just kind of do like one of those wine events where we could get a bunch of people on the beach and paint the sunset and do like a little party on the beach. Reggae Rum Punch event, we did it last year. We did it on National Rum Day. It was a huge hit. Everybody loved the band and the event itself, so I'd like to repeat that one. And the main event that I'd like to talk to you guys about tonight, just so I can continue working on it or not working on it anymore, I'm playing with the idea of doing something on a larger scale, like a pumpkin blaze or a rise of the pumpkins, or like one of those big walkthroughs that you do where people purchase tickets ahead of time, and we could set something up in the whole park and do it for the whole month of October. It's very, very involved as far as the setup and getting it going.
Well, luckily in October, the beach is closed, so.
The beach is closed, there's no more parking, the restaurant is quiet, so I feel like if we can do something for the month of October and draw people in there, it'll just keep a steady revenue stream of people coming in and out of the restaurant into the park. So I've been talking to a couple companies about staging and getting all the equipment there and what it would take to get something done like that. And before I go any further, I would just like to know from you guys if you guys would even consider something like that. Maybe?
It's not much detail there. But personally, my view is that anything that brings people to the park is a good thing. Park serves the community, and if you guys can make some money in addition, that's good. Because we're here to serve the public, and if the public comes to it, then I think it's a good thing for us.
Yeah. What I would do is I'm working with a couple companies now to get some more details on how to actually execute the whole event. What I think I'll do is I'm going to get to the point of where we have everything drawn out in the park, so you can see a layout and how the walkthrough would go. But then I would, I guess, come back to you guys to review it at that point and see if it would be something I should continue working on or not.
You're talking about something that would be throughout the park and staged for a month. So I think we'd want to think carefully about what the maintenance requirements, safety requirements are, both for park goers and for the materials that you're dispersing through the park.
Right. I think for an event like that, I would absolutely have to have a probably hired police just on a regular basis for traffic in the road. I would definitely have security. As far as the layout and all the stuff that goes along with it, it would all have to be engineered. So it'd be drawn out, engineered. There'd be electrical engineers and construction companies building the layout of whatever we design.
When do you think you would be able to come before us with something more detailed?
I was trying to have something today, but I've talked to several different people about it and a couple companies, and just getting to the point of getting them to take the work and get it going seems to be difficult in itself, which is why I figured let me ask today and to see if you guys would even be interested in me continuing to have this conversation, because it could be a lot of people, and it could be a lot of people that come to something like this. I mean, I've talked to, from the people that I've talked to that are currently doing it and the companies that are doing it, it could be anywhere between 75,000 people and 125,000 people in a month, which is a huge number.
I think we'd have to be really clear about the hours of operation and the impact on the neighborhood.
Right.
I wouldn't want to see you get too far along without engaging the City of Rye manager and public safety commissioner in a conversation
Okay.
to make sure that they are working with you on sculpting this event.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that all the questions that Josh raised are answered. All good questions.
Let me just throw another on for us, not for Chris. That is, we've got a beautiful passive park. I would say most particularly out of beach season, we have users of the park who just like the park in its natural and uncluttered form. So if we're thinking about having a ton of people, and I can't say I fully understand the concept, but a lot of stuff distributed through the park, we may be making the park an alien place for our core constituency.
Where would
Worried
these
about
people
that.
park?
Well, it's all about timing, right? So if we did 75,000 people in the month of October and we're charging $65, $75 a head for it, the hours probably would be from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, so 4 hours. We're talking about 2,500 people an hour. So it's a walkthrough. You literally walk through and then you get in your car and you leave. So, and just like any event that we do, you could always park at Playland.
Where else have there been this
There's
kind
like
of event?
there's the Blaze in what is it, the
Sleepy Hollow?
Yeah, Sleepy Hollow. There's like they did a Harry Potter one this year up in Yorktown. I think they did like 150,000 people in a month and a half.
The Blaze is in Croton.
There's Rise of the Jack-O-Lantern, I think is in Rockland.
So other people have done this. This has been a successful thing.
Yeah, I talked to the guy who did it over at Playland previously, and to see what he was doing over there, and his numbers were up there.
Right. I think
So
we
I'll
should
get a little
consider
further
it.
on it. I'll get a little
Yeah.
further on it, and then we'll go from there with it. The only last thing on my agenda is the uniforms and everything are pretty much going to stay the same. And then the menu. Did you have the other menu up on here, Debbie?
Everything that I think, Jamie?
Thought I had this on there too.
I don't know if I've got that. Let's see. You could just hand it around. if you
Okay.
want.
In the future, we have to have this on the agenda earlier so that we can,
I'm sure
See it.
I'm going to probably come back. I wanted to get the gist of everything to you guys now and go through it again later. The menu is pretty similar to last year. Couple items that are new. I just starred them so you guys can see them. We were getting a large request for the pizzas to come back again, so we added the pizzas back again, and we added some,
I don't see it here. Oh, there's a B.
there's 2 pages.
Oh,
The other page. Sorry.
We don't, I mean, for the menu stuff, you guys will just kind of keep me posted on it, I guess, if there's anything.
this way. As long as the giant pretzel is still on there.
Giant pretzel is still on.
To me, you can't go wrong if you have a hamburger, pizza, and, you know, some fish stuff, you're
That's
good.
it. We're doing a little bit more fish stuff this year. We added a couple boils to the menu because people were asking for the boil, so we did a boil, 2 boils. We're doing a crawfish boil and a seafood boil with lobster tails and stuff. We had a party on the beach deck last year with, we did a lobster boil and people were going bananas for it, so we're like, let's just put it on the menu. Let's, you know, go a little bit more seafood driven this year.
Seafood on the beach, how strange a concept.
That's it. I mean, that's
Thanks for all the creativity.
no problem. I enjoy doing it. I say I kind of look at it like I'm selfish. I like to go to work and have something to do and something to look forward to. So I like to make sure the calendar is super full in the beginning of the year. So it's just good for everybody when they're going in and there's always something going on. It gives everybody something to look forward to, and especially with the nice weather and being on the beach. Can't beat it.
I echo Mayor Cohn. Your creativity is really terrific.
Thank you.
You know, and it's really refreshing that compared to what used to be in the park, the previous number of restaurants, you know, you're using the whole park, not just the interior, and you're getting people. I mean, that's, when you get people to the park, especially local people, to come to the park, I think it's great.
We still haven't figured out how to get them there in the winter yet, but I'm pretty sure after this year we'll have that part figured out. But thank you. Yeah, it's been a fun journey up until this point. It's been a lot of uphill and roller coaster ride, but it's enjoyable. I can't complain
Good.
when I go to work.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
For the juice.
No problem.
Or do you think we're being bribed?
Does the trick for me.
All right. Last item, resolution to cancel the Rye-Town Park Commission meeting of February 21, 2023. May I have a motion and a second, please?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned until March the 21st.